What's up, guys? Blake here. Welcome back to another episode of the Raw Food Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I have yet another amazing guest for you guys. I have Melissa DeGrafft. She also goes by Grounded Gains in Glow on Instagram. She is a high raw fruitarian and fitness expert, and we are going to learn about her journey and her story today. So, first and foremost, Melissa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I've really been looking forward to our conversation. Your page is so interesting. And so I want to hear like how your journey has evolved because there's so many similarities that I can see between the way that your journey has evolved and the way that mine is starting to evolve.
hmm
So maybe I'll learn some cool tips and tricks along the way as well. But I figured we could start with like your origin story and what got you into the world of fitness and raw foods.
So I was the beginning of my divorce. I was always like an athlete in high school, but I had on and off to the gym for years. So the beginning of my divorce, I wanted to get my little revenge body or whatever. I got into fitness and the beginning parts, the struggles and everything, trying to figure out what works for you. I started to really focus on protein. And I tried to minimize, processed foods. And one of the things that I was really preaching a lot to people were simple ingredients. So that was like the first step, was high protein diet. I did demonize carbs for a minute, gave up carbs, went back on carbs, still drink every now and then. And then it was getting to the point where it was like, now I'm trying to tweak things, to cut. Cause when I first started, I did a dirty bulk. Ate whatever I wanted, gained a lot of fat. I think I gained like 20 pounds. I was 180. I got up to like 200 pounds. And then so I started cutting. So in the cutting process, of course, it's like, there's lots of ways to do cutting. You can do excessive cardio or you can just eat less. Let me move my incense. So that's, kind of when I started to play around with, high protein and I'm going to cut the carbs out. And I realized that, I got to give alcohol up. Wine was my thing. I started, doing like real simple ingredients. And that was a game changer, not eating out so much. And that was really like the thing, focusing on like the simple ingredients and not, processed foods. That was the big thing. I tried to minimize sugar. Of course, sugar's in everything. When I started my spiritual awakening, that's when things got wild. I want to say probably my whole transformation has been really swift. Gone through I wanna say the last time I ate meat was July 29th, and this is about to get woo-woo. I don't know if you're woo-woo or not. However,
Totally.
I had gotten some downloads that I thought were crazy, and my higher self told me that I was going to need to stop eating meat. She told me that I was gonna stop eating meat, stop eating dairy. She said that we were gonna go vegan, and then she said I would go raw, and then we wouldn't eat at all. And when I heard that, I was still like high protein, man, and I was eating everything, and I was like, "What? Not eat at all? That's crazy. That is so crazy." For some reason, this video on YouTube came up when I was on YouTube one day, and this woman was talking about being autonomous. And just for giggles, I watched it. Didn't pay no mind though, right? So kept eating meat. I was getting like, my soul was trying to nudge me. The July 29th, I still have a picture of the last steak I had. I had steak. And that night I had this horrible dream. Horrible dream. I was on Instagram too before I went to bed. But basically, I woke up from the dream and I was vegan. The dream, messed me up so bad. It was like I was having the dream in the version of a person, but when I sat down and I really meditated on the dream, I was able to feel what an animal goes through, and it just messed me up, the whole dream. So, from there, I was about to start my personal training business, which was like everything that I was telling people like protein, you need zero point 0.8 grams of protein per pound and hypertrophy training and everything. I was so ready. And then that happened. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do now? Because body lifters, like we pump protein, we're caffeinated. Now I had to, look up and thank God for Instagram. So I'm on Instagram and I'm coming across, vegans who are in the gym and they're swole. And I'm like, wow, this is possible. This is so possible. I don't know if I came across at that time, but I was reading something and then I saw a bug. I saw a bug on the table. It was a sign from God. Another woo woo. Anyway, it was like a winged ant. It was a big winged ant and it was carrying a spider around and the spider was way bigger than it. And I was like, what does this mean? And as I got done looking at that, I was reading a book and in the book it was talking about how the rhino, the gorilla, and the elephant, they're all vegan or they don't eat meat, but they're muscular, massive, powerful animals. And I was like, wow, that is what God is trying to tell me. He's trying to tell me, don't be worried because I worried so much. I was like, what's going to happen to my muscles? I've been building my muscles for 2 years. If I stop eating meat, what's going to happen to my muscles? What's going to, and you hear everybody say, oh, you can't do that. How are you going to, be a bodybuilder and not have, protein? Anyway, so that was the journey of that, and I was trying to figure out, how to get all your complex your proteins because, that's a whole different ballpark when you go vegan, or plant-based, because vegan is not a diet, plant-based. Then as I wanna say 3 weeks I got to eat, plant-based, and I was guided to eat fruit, which terrified me even more because not only did I just get the hang of, no protein, no dairy. I got a dairy, man, I was eating eggs like crazy and I loved cheese and all types of things, but gave all those things up. Never, I will never, that's one thing I will never do. I'll never go back to eating another animal. Anyway, but that's another story. So anyway, vegetarian, right? And I'm like, same thing. It's crazy. It's like each time my diet changed, it was always the same thing, the same questions, because it's like people, don't believe it's possible. Thank God for Instagram again. Well, I think Ted Carr, I saw him and I had signed up when I first started being a content creator and the platform was through school. So then Ted Carr popped up on my Instagram and I was like, wow, what are the odds? And then I was looking at him and watching his stuff and I was like, well, he's proof that it's possible, and then I started seeing other people doing it and I was like, my God, I guess that's what God wants me to do. He wants me to show people that, just because you eat fruit, you can still, you can survive. So I'm into the fruit and I want to say I was eating fruit for 2 months. And then that video from Instagram popped up again with that woman talking about being autonomous. And I'm like, oh my, what is this trying to tell me? And I'm freaking out. I'm meditating and I'm like, every time I feel like I want to start my business, you change what I can eat. So you're trying to tell me now that people can survive without food? And thank God for IG again. I started to hear about breatharian and it was crazy because it was like my higher self told me months before I even changed that we wouldn't eat. The more I got into there's a spiritual leader. This is Maria. I follow her. She's never given any information that I haven't found. She was one of the people too that was telling me about tomatoes, how they're nightshades. And she was telling me, that honeybees have a contract with people so that we can have honey. So it's crazy because that taught me about labels and how you can be plant-based or vegan. And I've learned that in fruitarian, that I've learned in each one of these things that there is an exception to every criteria. So even though I was a fruitarian, I didn't eat tomatoes or peppers or eggplants because they're nightshades. I even got to where I stopped eating onions. So it was like my diet kept getting restricted, more restricted. But yeah, and I started to like connect with people because fruit is the highest vibration. I was like really into like the karmic aspect, and I don't know if you know about life paths or anything, but I'm a life path 33, and a 6. Yeah, and so evidently I played around a lot in my past lives and I didn't learn lessons and I kept reincarnating. So this lifetime, I'm also a twin flame in this one, so I have stuff I need to do, which is probably why I sometimes I ask, Why did I sign up for this?" Because when I started to find out that this was a part of my soul contract, the reason why I'm in this lifetime, that I'm here to help with the ascension of Earth, because in the new Earth, we're not going to be eating. But anyway, at first it was a lot, and it was hard to come to terms with eating because I liked eating but anyway, I know I'm going all over the place, but anyway, the fruit's the less karmic thing you can do because the fruit gives the tree, continues to live. It drops its fruit. We can nourish ourselves with the fruit and then plant. I had crazy dreams almost every night that I was supposed to plant fruit trees. Still wondering what I'm going to do with that. But we'll find out with that soon. 'Cause I have this feeling that I'm supposed to travel, and I'm kinda trying to figure out where, because at the Pranic living, there have been 2 theories that I have been, going over. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, being fruitarian, that you live in Florida, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I live in Maryland, and I started to notice, and there was a guy, he moved to Hawaii recently. Jack, I don't know if you know Jack or not. I forget his last name, but I follow him. But anyway, he was from Fruitarian and he's trying to go into chronic life too. But he was telling me he lived in Ohio, and he's like, you'll notice that you're going to get more sensitive to cold. And I've noticed that, and I noticed that now, it's really hard for me here as far as it's like cold. So I feel like because I'm in between the transition, I feel like the more chronic we go, we don't get affected by the cold. And then I've heard that moving down to like, tropical areas, I know that's great for fruitarian living, but I've heard that high altitude is good for breatharian. So I'm trying to figure out, because I feel like I'm in the middle of 2 timelines, and they're trying to be like, and my higher version is breatharian, and that's where I'm going. Well, we're all breatharians, actually, to be honest. It's just different levels to it. Yeah, like that. So that's where I'm at now. So I started someone put me on the book, was it Higher Man's Conscience, or I think I might have got it. You know what I'm talking
Yep.
about? I have to go
Yep,
get it.
Man's Higher
I'm so
Consciousness by Hope and
Yeah,
Martina.
I'm halfway reading that, and that, like, opened me to a lot, and to me, personal experience is the best thing, because you can hear people talking about, like, even when I'm making content every day, like, people don't know if I'm lying. I mean, I'm not. I feel like, you know, we know. So, like, if you're telling me you're not eating, I believe you. You know what I mean? But for people who it's outside of their scope right now, it sounds crazy. But for us who have expanded our consciousness to this point where, and that's what I'm trying to, in a sense, figure out, because people are asking me questions as I post my content, and I'm trying to figure out, because there was a guy that I met on Instagram too, and he skipped the steps that I went through. So in the book, it talks about how there's like stages, how you can go from carnivore to vegetarian to fruitarian to liquidarian to pranic living or breatharian, which is how I went in a sense, but he went straight from carnivore straight to breatharian. So he showed me that there is always another way of doing thing. There is no set way of doing it. Because, so it was amazing that I met him because I thought that if I was teaching this to somebody that that was the way that it had to be done. And I don't know if that was your experience. Well, it sounds like you kind of like me. You went in stages.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just an incredible story, Melissa. I mean, wow. So we have such a similar story. I came into this world with, the fitness background, heavily into the protein consciousness. And then that led to yoga, meditation, doing some deep inner work. And I was manifesting longevity and being able to share my gift online with people, not knowing exactly what that gift was. I didn't want to do fitness anymore. I felt like I had kind of checked that off my box, and I wanted to take my journey deeper and find something that I could really teach people and really be passionate about, basically for the rest of my life. I just start water fasting. I get this call to start water fasting in 2023. And then just like you said, I was eating animal products, but then I went vegetarian. And then from vegetarian, I went vegan and then raw vegan. And then now I'm playing around with fruitarianism. And
Mhm.
then I just completed my first dry fast. And so when you went fruitarian, you said you were called to go fruitarian. Did you receive another message that was the time that you were feeling called to move towards that direction?
Yeah, and I'm into astrology big. So like right now, something's happening with the Taurus moon. I don't, some people aren't into astrology. When I be talking to people, it's very hard and it's very nice. And I'm so grateful for IG, honestly, because a lot of people around me have no idea what's happening to me. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So meeting people, who know what's possible and I can have an engaging conversation with is so refreshing. But like 100%, I see what you're saying, the similarities. I definitely and that's probably why you and me have come in contact because I've noticed that I've come in contact with people who have similar purposes or desires. And you know what the crazy thing is? I feel like breatharian, it allows you to see, like, karmic patterns so fast, and I noticed, like, my manifestations are so fast, and I didn't make a video about this. I did talk about how, like, I went, well, in a sense, backwards, but there was a lesson to that. So last week, I went and I had some cooked foods, and I hadn't had cooked foods in months. I wanted to see what was gonna happen. So, I had a kundalini rising after that. It was very weird. It was very painful. My body went through to something and then it was a kundalini rising, which was weird for that. But anyway, my point being, I dropped in frequency. So I look at myself as a scientist. I don't listen to anything. I mean, I listen, I take information from people as they talk, but my truth is what I experience. So I had seen people saying, that these fruitarian, all this type of stuff that none of that stuff is matters and that's a trap. And I wanted to see. I wanted to really see if I went backwards and ate something that wasn't fruit, would it affect my vibration or was this all just a bunch of crock? So when I had the when I went off the fruit and I had me some greens, they were amazing. Greens, I had a vegan sweet potato cheesecake. It was so good. I even had me some gluten-free and vegan cookies. I was going ham, right? No. My vibration dropped so low. I started to hear the voices in my head again, the intrusive thoughts. I learned my lesson. I definitely, from personal experience, I know that fruit, if you're going to eat it all, is the best thing you can consume. And the crazy thing is that no one really understands that because most people are eating everything. And you literally have to go where you'd go through this elimination of these foods to actually know. Me going and eating those things was my personal way of knowing That is my truth. Not what someone wrote in a book saying that fruit is the highest. I know for a fact that when I went and I ate things that were not fruit, well, I even had pain. And on this breatharian, I don't know if if you're experiencing this, but I'm saying it in my content because it's true. I don't feel pain anymore. I have not needed to take medicine. I don't get sick. And I've heard that. I've heard that from reading it, but this is my truth. That not eating, I honestly believe that not eating like the path to immortality. And I've heard of people. I have a tooth that's gone. And I think it's gone for a reason because I honestly I've read in that book, it said multiple times that people have grown, and the man that I told you that I met, he told me that the person that was telling him about breatharian actually grew his teeth back. So I'm like, and then when I did what I did, the longest, I did a 40, no, I did a 4-day dry fast. That was the longest I did. I think a couple weeks, last, it was 2 weeks ago. And I think my body was creating stem cells, and like I have this block in my hip. And when I was going to the gym and I was eating protein, I kept thinking like the more I worked it out, I was going to build it up. No, I was able to get my knee all the way down to the floor doing yoga when I was on that 4-day dry fast. So I 100% from personal experience, not from listening to somebody or reading a book, can vouch from personal experience that dry fasting can regenerate the body.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Y- Absolutely. It's so interesting. You were talking about not feeling pain, and then you were talking earlier about how the different climates, how breatharians they prefer maybe a little bit more altitude and perhaps a little bit colder of a climate,
Mhm.
and that breatharians are more resilient to the temperature. And as you just discussed, they're also more resilient to pain. And I've noticed that after my recent 5.5 day dry fast. And I'm just so drawn to this lifestyle. And for me, in my mind, it's so fascinating, but it's still not something that I'm yet visualizing as a full reality for me just yet. I think my transition is going a little bit slower, but I just started with raw vegan in the beginning of 2025, and I've already done a bunch of juice fasting, water fasting, dry fasting now, and my diet has changed and my body has like completely changed too. It's been remarkable, but I'm the same as you. I treat myself as the scientific experiment. We can understand things intellectually, but until we apply them to ourselves and get that visceral experience, then how are we to speak on something without
Right.
except from a place of authority and confidence? And I love how you're speaking from your own journey. And I just find that so fascinating that you were called to this lifestyle so strongly. And I feel like I kind of am too. And so, like, how would you recommend, like the transition process if somebody is hearing this and maybe they're getting those synchronicities that you had pop up with the videos? And when you were talking about the meme that you saw with the gorilla and the rhino and the elephant, I literally just saw that on my friend's story before our podcast.
Mm.
So, like, there's already like some crazy synchronicities popping off here, but do they go with that plan, like you said, the carnivore, vegetarian, vegan, or do you think it depends on the person? That maybe they might be able to go more aggressively? Because I've found that my body has wanted to really detox. And I think that's what's kind of slowing me up a little bit. So I'm still kind of on that journey that I'm trying to clean out all my tissues, but that could just be a personal thing as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
That's where I'm at right now. Oh, t- I'm like you. I laugh a lot today. Like today, I laughed. I laughed a lot, and I tell my kids now. My kids, I told them I was an alien like months ago, and now it's like now I'm at the point where, mom said she was an alien. I'm starseed, but anyway, mom said she's an alien. Mom's not eating now. So of course, like I
Nice.
know my kids, I'm this strange mom. Anyway, so yeah, because I'm doing stuff that, sounds crazy. And it's like no one has to believe me. I can post whatever I want on social media, but at the end of the day, they know. They know I don't eat. you know. So where am I going with this? But yeah, so I am trying to figure that out because, people are curious. And, while I'm telling you, I went in stages, but everybody's different. And I I want to say that my process has been accelerated a lot because there's people that I'm talking to who've been fruitarians and they've been doing stuff for years, and then here I come in talking my content, and it's like I get stuff from them. They want to know, well, how long have you know what I mean, like trying to say that I'm in no position to be giving advice on such and such, and all I can say is I don't know, but I'm not doing this just because I'm doing this. I'm being divinely guided. That's what I'm telling people, that I'm honestly being divinely guided. I know I am. What else do I want to say in that regard? The transit, something's happening in the last 3 days. I have literally, so 2 weeks ago, like I said, I'm going to go back to that. When I was dry fasting, I was forcing myself to dry fast. And I do want to talk about this in a second because I think that this is very crucial. And I think that this might have to do with the woman that we saw in the news from Bali that died. And so I'm going to go back to that. But when I was doing the dry fasting, I started with 1 day, ate, went to 2 days, ate, went to 4. And I said I'm gonna stop at 4 because I want to, dry fasting also will kill the ego. But yeah. So I was like, I wanna stop there because I don't need to prove to anybody or myself anymore because I know that it's possible. Because I mean, I'll ask people, I'm like, okay, well, when am I supposed to die? How long can I go without food? People don't even have they don't even have an answer for that. It's funny because it's like, and I'm asking them like, well, when am I supposed to die? When am I supposed to get sick? And it's like, but everybody has an opinion on what we're doing. It's like people think we have an eating disorder, and it's like, no, I don't have an eating disorder. It's like I don't have the desire to eat. Today, I had 1 glass of juice, and it was because I wanted to have the juice. So, like, when I stopped forcing myself and now I'm letting my body guide me, it's not hard. When I first started to do the dry fast 2 weeks ago, I was literally hard. I was fighting demons, I was fighting food cravings. I'm guessing parasites died in me. Um, yeah, that's another story too. But, so what I'm thinking is if someone's trying to force themselves into breatharian, and I lost a lot of weight when I was trying to force myself into it, I don't think that the Pranic channel is open. And that's what
Yes.
yeah, and that's something that no one really said when I was doing my research about it. I just knew that the idea was real, and I was watching, testimonies from people, but no one really said that you shouldn't force yourself into it. So what I noticed was I dropped a lot of weight, and I was fighting the hunger and stuff. But now that I've slowed it and in a sense letting my body guide me is weird. I have no desire to need to eat. And yoga, breathing, literally, like if I sit and I just breathe, running. I saw you were running today. I went running today too, and I was giggling in the gym because it was giving me energy. And I knew that people were going to be like, why is she burning calories? She's already like skinny. She doesn't need to be doing cardio. But I'm like, get it now. Movement is what energizes us. We literally, and the sun, when I can get a piece of the sun, because right now the sun is hard to come by now because it's winter, but it's like the sun nourishes us. And when we're eating these foods, the standard American diet, People have no idea that that food doesn't nourish us because their body has no idea how to operate other than the moment we're born, we get breast milk. And from that point on, we're constantly weaned into food. And it's like by weaning yourself off food, your body remembers its true source of nourishment, which is life force energy, the sun, happiness. There was a guy's YouTube that I just came across the other day, and he changed my perspective within the last couple days. Oh God, his name, and I forgot. I made a post about what he was saying, but he basically said exactly what I was going through, and he said that he doesn't do the same thing every day. He needs variety and he lives for life experiences. He says that he gets his pranic nourishment from doing new things and being happy. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go do things that make me happy. So the last couple days, you know what I did? I went shopping. I went to the beach. I did things that I liked. And the crazy thing is, when you are doing things that you are happy with, you don't think about eating at all. The only time I think about eating is when I'm sitting watching other people eating or I'm bored. It's so crazy. And so many, I feel like people are not doing things that are fulfilling themselves now.
Yeah. And they're filling themselves with food.
Mm-hmm.
And you just dropped some just amazing wisdom right there. And I was just talking to my buddy about this too when you were mentioning how as soon as we're born, we are given our mother's milk. And the first wound that we all share as humans is that first separation when we
Mm-hmm.
are born. You know, when we're still inside of our mother's tummy, we are one. We don't understand the concept of separation. When we're born, now we understand that we are a separate being. And that's kind of a big shocker for a little infant. But then, you know, typically our mother comforts us with love and warmth and also food. So
Mm-hmm.
our drive to eat is so emotionally and safety driven, and that it becomes a comfort. And we seek to self soothe ourselves with food when we're bored or when we're stressed. And the more that you fast, and dry fasting particularly, the more you start to create distance between that sensation. And I think that's very liberating. And I wanted to touch on something that you said earlier, that certain of us are being called to this
Mm.
lifestyle, and that it's almost like a duty, I feel
Yeah.
like, because the consciousness of people is being so bombarded that it's almost like a karmic leveling, that there's people like you and people like some of these other content creators that you've mentioned, helping to help people find themselves, so that they're not alone in this journey. And I feel like this journey, however far you make it, however fast you go, it is the ultimate journey
Mm-hmm.
of being able to control what goes in here. So can you speak more on what you see happening with the collective, and any messages for people who are also feeling called for this?
So what I believe that most of the world is going to transition, and I believe that it's going to be up to them. I believe that we could take a person who's, eating meat, and if they truly wanted to ascend to the new earth, then they would stop and they could become a breatharian. If they believed it was possible and they had the will, I believe it could be done. Now, I believe also that skipping those stages, what I've learned is you can do it the hard way or the easy way. And the journey, it's not about how long, it takes you, as long as you get to the end point. So I do believe that collectively, most of the world is going to become breatharian and we will not eat. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take. Do believe that some people will be on board faster like us, and some people are going to be a little more, It's not going to happen, as fast. But I believe that if you can do it the way that, the dude that I was telling you about, that he did it, you're fast tracking it. Now, is that going to be as smooth as maybe the way that I did it? Probably not, but it worked for him. So I can't say that, you can't go straight from carnivore to breatharian because I've met him and I met him for a reason to show me that there's another way. Now, my way, I went, like the book, I went through the steps, like you. We went through the steps. Now, however long it takes, like you said, you've been going through the steps a little bit longer than me. I've had an aggressive, you know, in a sense, journey. I haven't really been, I wasn't plant-based that long before I got thrown. It was really annoying. I'm not even gonna lie, but I don't judge the universe for whatever. But it was like as soon as I got used to something, they were like, no, now you're gonna do this. What? No, now you're gonna stop eating. Are you serious? So I don't want to say that, every person's journey is going to be different, but I would recommend basically if I were going to try to teach people, because I think that's what I'm here to do, I would want to ask somebody to be honest with themselves and how they think they can handle it. If they can do, a jump like that, or if they're going to need to ease into the transition. Because if you can ease into it, it'll probably make it smoother for you. But everybody likes things differently, Some people like to just go ahead and get it done. Some people like, I don't know how to describe it other than kind of like remind me like, when we were kids, my mom would beat us and she would be like, "Do you want me to beat you now or do you want me to beat you later?" And my sisters were scared, they didn't, no, we don't want to be like, no, go ahead, beat me now. That's all I want to do. Just get it out of the way. But anyway, I know, I'm sorry, that was traumatic. But,
Wow.
that that's what I see, but I do honestly, if you're feeling the call, I honestly feel like in a what is it, Three Eye Atlas, they say that, it's never gonna land here, but that it's actually coming over us to waken us and send us light codes so that our DNA, I know our DNA is changing. I've been telling people to get into the sun so that they could, enhance their DNA. And I believe that they're coming towards us and moving over us because they know that the earth is ascending. And I believe probably you too, and that's why we're in contact with each other, that I believe that we have a shared soul mission. I've noticed that we actually can tap into the collective consciousness. So, like the same thing you were just talking about, where you had the same analogy with, with the rhino and the gorilla. When I was talking to the other guy in Greece, he had this, and then Jack too in Ohio, and who's now in Hawaii. It's like we were being seen. I have a friend in Texas too, the same images or the same messages through different things, and we never met each other and yet are able to engage. I feel like I've also been in deep silence, so I think I'm preparing for telepathy. I don't know if you believe that too, but I do not fear for us in a sense, because I do believe things are coming. You can already see like just the fact how it was hard for us to connect for this podcast because of the things that we are meant to share during this right now with other people. And I just saw the resistance. I'm seeing others like us talking about certain things happening in, what they're doing, because what's happening, they're trying to not let people know what's happening. They don't want people to know that you don't need food. You know, everything's geared around the healthcare system, the food. If people found out that you're addicted to food and you don't need food, and food is the reason why you're overweight and you're getting sick and you're in pain and you're depressed. Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you stop eating animal meat, depression goes out the window. Like the voices in the negative self-talk, it goes out the window, like literally. But they don't understand that because they're so used to that. You know what I mean? But it's like I took myself off medicine. Like they s- I had a diagnosis for bipolar years ago, and I changed my diet. I started to go to the gym, working out, eating healthy, exercising, journaling, therapy, all these things that I did. I am the most sane, functionally healthy person ever. That medicine, it's like everybody's on medicine. And that medicine has a side effect, and they give you another medicine for that. And it's like, it's like all these systems that they're intertwined to work together. I don't know. This is longevity. And just like you, I was going through the same thing because I was in fitness for the aesthetics. And then as I got into my journey, I was like, okay, it's not about what you look like, but I was still trying to build a body. And then I started to realize it's not about that. It's about being healthy and being able to get up and move my body because I'm seeing how many people my age, I'm almost 40, but can't even bend over and pick up a pencil. They can't pick up, it's like they couldn't do the things that I'm doing. And then I always, as a little kid, I feared getting old because I feared my independence and I feared having to depend on someone or not being able to do the basic things. And it's like, man, this is it. You're not in pain. You don't have to go to the doctor. There's people, they're saying, there's people living to be 200 years or more. They say that we used to live to be thousands of years old. And it just makes sense. Like, if you start to take these pieces of what we're learning, like what you're learning, what you and I have learned from dry fasting. All right. If you use the logic of what we are learning scientifically, medically from dry fasting, and a breatharian is in a constant state of dry fasting. You mean to tell me we are constantly regenerating? Like, you can't take certain pieces of facts and make it work the way that you want it to work. So if the medical professionals are already saying that you can regenerate, your body will create stem cells after 3 days of dry fasting. Okay, well, what if I'm always dry fasting? That means I'm continuously healing myself. And the moment I eat something, my body is dying because I'm putting things into it that is not designed, like, and that's a whole nother thing right there. When you get on this path, you realize that you start to realize these cues that your body gives you are not what you think they are. You think you're hungry because you've taught your brain that whenever I do this little noise down here, you're going to feed me. So these parasites, everything's laced with sugar. So I want that dopamine hit. So I'm going to tell this person I'm hungry, so they go give me what I want, not what you want. You're going to get some parasite in you what they want. It's crazy. I'm talking a lot now.
No, you are actually telepathic because that's exactly what I was going to ask you about is your take on parasites. We were talking earlier that, it's started to become easier for you to just trust your body and you're like, I'm not hungry actually. This is remarkable. Just recently in my journey before the dry fast, I was looking up to my friends and I still do, of course. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, these guys are hardcore fruitarian. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to set the salads down or to set the salt down and, not have my oil from time to time, or even some of my, steamed squash or vegetable soup from time to time. And, ever since I broke my dry fast yesterday, I've just been having juice and I'm having like no vegetable cravings. You mentioned that you saw in my story that I was running. I tried to run with my mouth closed and just nose breathe the whole time, and I was able to do it. I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my dear
Yep.
God.
Yep.
And I had a massive, not to be too graphic, but I had an insane BM on day 5 of my dry fast.
Right.
And I looked inside and there was some parasites in there. And it
Yeah.
kind of freaked me out because I was never really on the parasite bandwagon before. Not that I didn't believe it, but as we've been discussing, until it happens to you or you notice it happening to you, it's not as visceral of a realization. And so I'm thinking to myself, when I had that release and I got some old crud out, my stem cells were rejuvenating my body. I detoxed quite a bit. Did that change my entire, I guess, appetite, my entire drive for food? Because I'm literally just like, I want juice now, maybe some fruit, but
Mm,
I'm just kind of chilling.
yeah.
And so, like, what is your take on the parasite thing? Because unless it's like messing with my mind, I feel like I remove parasites and now my entire brain and craving system is moving completely differently.
No, that's what I've experienced too. And I mean, a parasite basically controls the host. And even before I even delved into that, I was hearing things about, like STDs, they were parasites, and how someone was saying the link between a very sexually promiscuous person with a STD. It's like they're saying that the STD is actually controlling that person's sexual behavior. And then, of course, parasites are also low entities, low vibrational entities. That's another thing too. So, that goes with alcohol too. You're attracting lower entity, things. So yeah, like you have these parasites in your body because you've made it an acidic environment, and then they're controlling the things that you're eating. And you can't tell me otherwise, because from the fact that I don't eat anything right now other than juice. And then I went strictly fruit, like nothing. Like, even when I get my juice, I read my labels. I don't get there's nothing, no preservatives. I've even like gone down to my clothing. I don't use microplastics in my clothing, like everything, man. Like, got bamboo toothbrushes. And it's like you do think differently and you don't crave these things. So it 100% tells you that there's something in your body that is controlling the way that you think, the way that you move, the way that you do things. It's like what you buy. And it's just like we know that they're genetically modifying food to make them addictive. So, man, it's bad. And so, honestly, back to what you asked me before, I don't know if something's going to happen I don't know. I don't know if I have this feeling like something's gonna happen with, like, to the animals. Like, I don't know if something like a disease is gonna hit livestock, where kinda where COVID, where, it was really hard to find eggs. Eggs were super expensive. I don't know if something's gonna happen where meat's not gonna be available to people, and it's going to force people to stop eating meat. I don't know if, but even the government shut down, like, when the government shut down, I was like, this is a time for me to step up and talk about what's happening, because fear. Parasites run off of fear. They harvest people's energy through fear. So many people depend on food stamps. And the fear that these families, these mothers, these people not to, know where they're going to be able to eat. And I'm like, I need to tell people I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Because I know that I don't need this food. And just like, the things that people will do when they're desperate for food. They'll commit crimes, they'll act out of character. I mean, people, the way people act when they see cookies, you know what I mean? Or even me when I was craving the chocolate. And when I went and I had those chocolate the last couple days, my mind had changed a couple days. My vibration dropped. I have proof now. And I was craving more, which I wasn't eating those things. But it's like I had to say, hey, well, Melissa, you did go eat those, you put those things back into your body. So, now I don't have the desire to eat anymore. So it's definitely, to me, if you're gonna do that, I was trying to tell somebody today, like, if you are really serious about doing this is not just like a fad thing to do. This is a lifestyle. And honestly, detoxing, like, the logic behind detoxing is, if you're going to detox from something, you have no business putting it in your body to begin with. So it's like, if you're going to do a detox, and then don't go back to something that you need to detox from. In my opinion, that's just how I'm trying to look at it now. So, I sit and I watch people eat, and I just remember what it was like when it tasted, but I don't want my vibration to drop. I didn't tell y'all about the money I lost. Like, going backwards, I lost like $1,400. I got scammed. It was crazy. I don't even know how this happened to me because 'cause I'm like too it was wild, and it was like I got scammed. I lost money, and it was like, wow, me going back and eating those cooked foods after I know that I'm supposed to be on the breatharian pathway. I had that pain in my body, horrible pain. I mean, it went away within 20 minutes, but it was horrible. Like, I felt like I was dying. So I felt pain in my body, which was not normal to me. I lost a lot of money. I feel like something else bad happened to me too. I can't think of it. But yeah. So I'm like, I'm not messing around with that. My body was hurting. I lost manifestations because when you go breatharian, your manifestations is crazy. Like, I was at the point, and I think I had made some content on this, but it was like if I thought something, people were going and bringing it to me. Like, I literally haven't had to work. Haven't had to work. Literally. Like, I've been telling people that. I'm like, man, you going to work, and it's like I don't have to work. My vibration, I like money comes to me.
It's incredible.
Eating's not worth it, you know what I mean? Like, if I can lay back and get the things that I want just by being at a frequency, and I think everybody has the ability to do that, honestly.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that's an amazing recount of what your experience has been on this path to breatharianism. And as we're kind of wrapping up here, I wanted to bring this back to what one of the videos that inspired your journey when you saw that lady who was autonomous in Russia. And we've been talking about prana and life force energy. And for the listeners who they might not understand that for one person doing a dry fast, they could get really, really skinny and sick. But for another person just living a breatharian lifestyle, they can build muscle and they can do
Mhm.
incredible things also with no food or water. So what is that pranic life force, and is the ultimate step to breatharianism the autonomy where you're not drinking water, you're not taking food, and also you're not sleeping? Is that the ultimate evolution of humans?
So from what she said she says, like, "What do I need to sleep for?" She's like, "When I sleep, my body needs to heal." She's like, "My body doesn't need to heal." And she says that the hours that I would have been sleeping, I can help people. She didn't say what she did, and she didn't have to. But where I'm at now, as I'm coming into my calling, I see that, all this time that I was eating and planning what I was going to eat and the time taking to eat, this is all hours that I have to live my life and do things that I enjoy and to help others. So it's like I don't need to sleep. Like, 2 days ago I went all day off of 3 hours of sleep and I was fine. When you eat food, it makes you tired. So I mean, movement, we all need to move anyway, regardless of whether you're eating or not. When you're eating, you have to move and exercise so you don't, gain weight. So it's like if you're gonna exercise and you can meditate, you can do all these things. You can do things that you love, you can do breath work, you can do yoga, you can work out, run, swim, all these things. It's not limited. At first I thought, not eating, oh my God. But it's like, no, there's so many things that I can do with my life. And we all say that life is so short. And if only I had, more time, time. If only I had more time. Well, this is what I asked for. I get to use my day to do whatever I want to do with it. From the moment I wake up to the moment I do lay down, it's like I'm doing what makes me happy and it gives me energy. I'm not, I never am like exhausted. I'm not doing things that drain me. Like, honestly, this is like the most fulfilling part of life ever. It's everything I ever asked for. Everything that anyone could ever ask for, this is it, literally. No pain, youth. Because if I start reverse aging, you know what I mean? I don't know what else to say. It's wild. What else did I miss? I think I started ranting.
No, you pretty much said it all, Melissa. And again, thank you so much for sharing that
Yes, thank you.
incredible experience. And for the audience, for anyone who is feeling inspired by this or feeling called to the breatharian, the pranic path, as Jerome Shaw would call it, or
Mm.
breatharianism, or even autonomism, do you feel like it's important, because you were mentioning that certain souls are called to this and then we end up finding each other, and
Mhm.
despite attempts to hold us back, it seems like we're unstoppable. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
When we liberate ourselves with knowledge and then applying that knowledge physically, putting the work in, and then you create that wisdom. So should they seek community? Would it help to follow your Instagram page and follow your stories? And do you think community is important in this
Yes,
realm?
definitely. Like when I found out, when I first heard what my path was going to be, it sounded crazy to me. But as I started to get down those paths, just those people who were living in their authenticity on Instagram and people who made, YouTube videos, it was a beacon of light to me. So I would say community definitely, because there's so many people who don't know why they're being guided towards these things, because it sounds crazy. But the more that we talk about it, we put it out there, they're able to see us and we're able to, meet each other and talk and learn from each other. So definitely, like, if follow, find, and everybody's got a different way of doing it, like you're probably going to learn things that I don't. And that's how we can learn and from each other. So definitely, definitely. And that's what when I wake up, that's my job. I tell people that, I'm a content creator. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but that's what we do, because I believe that it's going more people are coming online and they're looking for answers, and I'm so grateful that when I was looking in my part of my journey, that there were people out there who were not, hiding it, who were, sharing their story and allowed me to watch. And when I got to the point where I felt comfortable reaching out, I always tell people that hit me in my DMs, I love that, because I know what it's like to not have anyone to talk to, or have any direction. So that's what I'm here for.
Well, for that, Melissa, I thank you so, so much. I definitely hit you in the DMs and I was like, look, I need to interview you. And you're like, all right, bet. And so here we are. And that was an incredible interview.
Thank you.
I'm going to put your links in the description box below. It's Ground and Gains in Glow, and the and is spelled with just an N. But you guys
Hmm.
can just click Melissa's link. As she said, feel free to hit her in the DMs, and I think I can safely speak for the both of us that we have your back, and you can use us as a resource and a support tool wherever you are in your journey. We're not judgmental or dogmatic whatsoever. And so, once again, Melissa, thank you so much. Amazing job. And for all you guys out there, thanks for sticking around, and we will talk soon.
See you
Peace.
later.